Chris,
Yes, sir.
the presentation, I don't see them here yet, and they might be having parking issues. So, we might have to just do a quick, like, the agenda change as we talked about, but we might have to bump it back to after. Yeah.
Yep. I did. I can't get on. Then you get in trouble. Password for the Wi-Fi. Yeah. Should have. Oh, it's only that iOS. I think no, it's probably that iOS 18. That's what we're. Sir, how are you? Down here, perfect.
I heard that. Happy holidays.
It's a room. I'm gonna improve myself to get to a certain point, it's kind of plateau.
Clock on the wall is a little slow, so it is 5 o'clock.
Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't been looking at my, okay. Then we will, and I have my script from Shelby in front of me. Call to order the December 16th, 2024 meeting of the Clackamas Fire District Board of Directors at 5 p.m. At Clackamas Fire, we are always here for you. We value our people, the people we serve. Our focus is establishing teams, trust, empowerment, accountability, mindset, and service. If you are attending in person, please sign in at the sheet next to the door. The regular meeting of the Clackamas Fire District Board of Directors will now come to order at 5 p.m. per ORS 192.610 to 192.690. Per ORS 192.650, this meeting is being recorded. Video recording of this meeting will be placed on the Clackamas Fire District website. Please stand and place the flag on the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next thing, changes to the agenda. Chief Brown, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yeah, we have two changes. We have two additions actually. So we're gonna have a presentation, Volunteer Association donation by President Johansson. And if we could do that presentation after the approval of the minutes of the regular board session meeting on November 18th, that way the family can get home. And then we do have item B3, request board approval for LOSAP in service emergency distribution for vested active volunteer. This is an additional request to the already existing request that's there.
Okay. Objections? Make those changes. Next up is approval of minutes for the regular board meeting on November 18th, 2024. Does any board member have any comments or changes to share?
No.
Okay, if there are no changes, the minutes to the regular board meeting on November 18th, 2024 stand approved as written. Next up then would be the presentation Volunteer Association donation to Volunteer President Joe Johansson.
Good evening. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Chief Brown. Tonight I have Dustin and Aaliyah here with their daughter, Maylee. Quick brief story here. On the morning of July 17th, 2024, Maylee underwent a routine dental procedure. However, she had an adverse reaction to the sedatives and that had stopped her heart. CPR was administered and 2 rounds of epinephrine were used to stabilize her for transport to a nearby children's hospital. Unfortunately, Maylee suffered some brain damage and lost all physical and cognitive abilities. She was making daily progress and was expected to require at least 6 months of hospitalization and therapy. Dustin and Aaliyah both took time off of work to be with their daughter, and financial assistance was greatly appreciated. I caught wind of this. I've known Dustin for some years now, and I brought this to the volunteer organization, and he voted to make a donation to them to help out with their medical bills and expenses regarding regarding her time in the hospital. So after 6 weeks, Maylee was she walked out of the hospital, and as you can see, she's here with us tonight. So I wanted to offer you guys this check to help out with medical expenses and your guys' unfortunate time with the hospital. So, thank you very much.
No,
Thank you.
Joe offered to just drop it off to us, and being a volunteer myself, with Sandy, that's how we met. A lot of times you don't get to see the end result, and so we're working with Tammy and I'm visiting all the crews that responded that day from Clackamas. To give that closure, we don't get that as first responders. There's very few times you get to see that, so. But I want to thank you guys personally, instead of just being like, here you go, and not hear from us, because I've sat on a board before for volunteers and we've given out money, and we don't always get to see that. And so I want to make sure that, you know, you knew everything. We were thankful for it.
Appreciate you for coming and doing that. Everybody in this room, like, for them to be able to see the impacts of what they do day in and day out is pretty huge. And so thanks for coming and doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that she's nestled up in your arms right there.
Oh, yeah. She's being bashful because there's so many people, but she's about 85 to 90% back to where she was.
That's awesome.
So she's doing well.
It's amazing.
Yeah. No, we just wanted to thank you guys for what you do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Glad you're here.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See ya.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, according to our shuffling around, we are now at public comment. I will now call for statements from citizens regarding district business. Shelby, do we have anyone sign up for public comment in addition to the one I have here?
I received one online, but I do not see him here yet. Other than the one you have, no one has mentioned anything on the Zoom meeting.
All right, then I have up Patrick Dunn.
Thank you, President Hawes and members of the board. I'm here today on behalf of myself, on behalf of the bargaining team, and all our union brothers and sisters. Wanted to come here and stand united before you today to respectfully request that the district meets us with a fair and reasonable contract. One that reflects our value, the value of our work, the local economy, and the local regional fire service labor market. 4 years ago, when this administration assumed leadership, we rallied together to support it through difficult times and challenging decisions. We were asked to make concessions and compromises to support the greater mission, and were assured that in time, we would be made whole. Many of our neighbors faced similar challenges, largely due to the impacts of COVID. Yet those organizations have since demonstrated their commitment to their workforces by following through with their promises. When we entered negotiations a year ago, we were optimistic that this administration's actions would reflect its stated values, that our people would indeed be a priority, and that valuing employees would be more than just words on a poster. Historically, our pay has been competitive with our neighboring departments. This administration has communicated there is not enough money in the budget to pay us comparable wages. We believe that a budget is not simply an expression of how much money exists, but actually reflects what an organization's true priorities and values are. And this administration's budget reflects how devalued we are as a work group relative to our neighbors. Not only does the district's last offer fall short of our comparables, but it accelerates the rate at which we're falling behind. And sets the stage for us to become a feeder department that spends an incredible amount of time and money to train new employees, only to lose them to neighboring departments that pay 20% more than we do. This is not a question of gamesmanship or bargaining strategy. It's simply a question. Does the board genuinely support firefighters and the vital services that we provide to the taxpayers here? And has the board made it clear to the fire chief that fair compensation is your expectation? We're currently the lowest paid fire agency in the Portland metro area. We don't believe this fairly represents the value we provide to the taxpayers here. We see that executive session is on the agenda for tonight. We anticipate the fire chief is going to provide you with his perception of what a fair and reasonable contract is. If the board would like any clarification on our position or our rationale where we stand, we invite you to reach out to us and we'd be happy to discuss it further. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Shelby, has the other signed up person?
Yes, not. I do have someone that has raised their hand online.
Oh.
I believe there's directions.
Yeah. I've got to find where it says, please use hand raise function at the bottom if you're calling in, you select none. Okay, well, then I think they need to come online and identify themselves for the record.
Well, their hand went down. So they're still there and want to make comment, and they want to raise their hand, I can move them over to speak.
Thank you. Otherwise, I guess we will move on to the next thing, which is one of our best things ever, presentation from Jeff Griffin with Wilson Harrigan Associates. Good day.
Thank you, for letting me be here this December, just before the holidays.
If you can move that chair up here if you need to. Just stack your stuff on.
Thank you. This is just a quick review. It should be.
I already have this.
You might.
Did you do this tool at the conference?
No,
So that's good.
this is what, you look like for this next year.
No, got it. The same for different.
Same but different. Turn to the very back of the book, about 2 pages before the end, you'll see a sideways little graph that that is a comparison year over year. In February each year, we send you out a budget projection. Oops. We send you out a budget project. Thank you for the smile. In February each year, you get a budget projection. We projected that rates would change somewhere between 14 and 18% this year because of where the market is at. Currently, if you do a comparison of this year to last year, it is about a 14% difference. But a large part of that is in increase in payroll and services charge. You'll see that graph, the general liability graph on the bottom left-hand side. The other major changes are in valuations of equipment and buildings. As you know, an engine company today can easily hit $1 million. That's gone up significantly from pre-COVID of $600,000-700,000. Ladder companies today might be as much as $2.5 million. Might take 5 years to get. Pre-COVID, they were about $1 million, $1.2 million, something like that. So most all of your real property has gone up significantly in valuation. So staff did a great job drilling down on the true evaluation, and it's a little bit of a challenge whether we'd replace it if it's a newer piece of apparatus or an older piece of apparatus that we would either get a functional value for or a functional replacement. So it's a little bit of a challenge, and I would encourage you to be gentle with this process over the next 2 years because the values are changing so rapidly. So especially on used apparatus, it's all over the boards. If you follow Brimley Mountain, a 15, 18-year-old Pierce might come in, a Lance or a Dash might come in at 120,000 one day and 170 the next day just because of availability and demand. Newer apparatus continues to go up. I don't know if we're gonna hit a ceiling here pretty soon. It sure feels like we should. But the apparatus is very expensive and our building costs have gone up significantly. When I stood before you a year ago, I'd mentioned stick frame was going up for somewhere between $300 and $400 a foot. Concrete block for a fire station. And what we do is we work with the four major architects that build fire stations out throughout the Northwest, including the ones that you've used in the past. I would have told you that concrete and brick was $400 to $600. Today, stick frame is all coming in at about $400 a foot, and brick concrete is $6+. So it's very expensive to build, and apparatus expensive, and that's driving a large part of this cost. So as you look at it, a credit to you, the board, and to your management team. You get all the max best practice credits that you can. You max that out at 10%. There's no more that SDIO does. I hope someday down the road they extend that, but that 10% is a big deal. You will see that your loss ratio has climbed significantly. Usually you're in the 10-12% range. We've got some open general liability claims, which is driving that up. And I think we've got about $500,000 in reserves in some of those claims, but that's raised your 5-year loss ratio up to about 72%. All in all, you came in good in comparison to the rest of the marketplace. That has to do with the quality of your leadership, the quality of our firefighters. You're doing everything right. What I want to suggest is that I believe that the market is close to cresting. Most of the frontline insurers are reporting some significant profits. The first quarter of 2023, the industry was, and this is from memory, I think the industry was showing about a $6.9 billion loss. First quarter this year, I think it's just under a $10 million profit, $10 billion profit. Big turnaround. And I think all the reports that we're getting right now from reinsurers, everything's starting to soften up. Now, it'll be dependent on what happens this summer with hurricanes and wildfires and all the other things that are driving these rates. But we think that the worst of the times are behind us, other than workers' compensation. But we think the property management, property and casualty marketplace will start to stabilize. The three areas that they're watching very closely: auto liability. Those claims can be extremely difficult to defend in court. Employment liability, hiring, firing, promoting, demoting, those types of things, and cyber liability. So those three are just continuing to drive the marketplace in a challenging place. As far as the availability of different markets in the state of Oregon, almost all fire districts in the state of Oregon are with one of the pools. If it is a city, Portland is self-insured. I think Salem and Eugene are self-insured, but all the other cities are with cities and counties pool. Special districts insures all of the fire districts except for two, and those two, SDIO and those districts decided to kind of go their own direction. If that's we're being recorded, so I hope that's a palatable statement. Other than the pools, you have two choices. You can go to what's called a managing general agent. Outside of this state, there are several large ones. VFIS that you see when you go to the international shows, and a group called ESIP, which is an offshoot from VFIS. Not competitive right now. VFIS is getting more competitive in Oregon, but right now still not the right fit. They have announced this last month that they're going to add in pre-loss legal, which is something they didn't have, which really made them a non-starter here for us in Oregon. There's a new company that is not yet filed or approved, but I believe will be filed by next year, and that's called Fire Plus. It's part of Provident. You know them from some benefits that you've bought over the years through that company. Also, mainstay long-term company. They'll be good options, and they're what's called a managing general agent. The frontline insurers, the Hartfords, the Liberties, the Travelers, all advertise that they want public entities, but they don't have any in the state of Oregon. They're just not competitive. Other states, yes, but not here in Oregon. So the pools have performed very well. At least the special districts pool has performed very well. They have good reserves. They're positioned right. Still today in Oregon, it is the best option. And I believe it will be moving forward. We want to watch this year because I think the preferred market, the insurance market, is going to start driving the pools down, which is a good thing. I hinted that there is one area of insurance that is not very stable right now for the fire service, and that's workers' compensation. So the governor announced several months ago that the average rates for workers' comp in the state of Oregon were going down about 2.5%. That's not true with the fire service. Fire service is going up about 12.8% for the firefighter class code. Most of what's driving this right now is post-traumatic stress. And we are in a very challenging time for our firefighters. We are seeing, as an industry, we're broken, in my opinion. 10 years ago, our firefighters would roll out and see exactly what you saw tonight, a loving fire family that got who we are and got what we do. Today, we don't see that. We see people throwing rocks and bottles at trucks. We had a situation I mentioned to Jay when I saw him at the conference the other day in the Seattle area, where an angry civilian went up to a grocery cart. That particular department was in the grocery store getting their grub for the day with their own money. And an angry civilian walked over and started taking stuff out of the grocery cart saying, "Not with my tax dollars." So civilians are just different today. You see arguments in parking lots over a parking space. You see it in restaurants. They're angry. I see more situations today where an angry civilian is confronting one of our firefighters that is potentially saving a life. You've heard my story with the infant that occurred, where the firefighter, you look at medically what they did everything right, saved that life, and yet the parents were unhappy with the interaction with the fire department. So I think some of those things are driving and changing our culture. It is a different time, and Oregon has seen a number of claims when we got involved with the Oregon Fire Chiefs Association, with SAFE, State Action Insurance Fund. They had not closed any open post-traumatic stress claims. Since then, we've gotten involved with the fire chiefs on their 5-step program, and we've got at least 12 closed that I know of, and several others that didn't go through the claims process. So getting our firefighters healthy, back with their families, here healthy, is an important issue. It will drive the cost for a while. In the state of Washington, L&I is extremely concerned. They have a plethora of open claims. They're not seeing any of those claims processed very well, and they're struggling. They don't yet have a direction that they think is going to get our firefighters healthy back at work and those claims closed. So those claims are, they stack up a pretty good size reserve. They're driving the rates up, and I think they will for the next several years. And these claims are real. And we just need to find the best possible way to get our firefighters healthy and back. We're working with Struggle Well. I think probably some of your firefighters have sat through some of the classes that we brought in. We've got a dozen classes going on this year with Struggle Well. SAFE has asked us that we use it as a preventive tool, a 2-day training class. We have used them with a number of firefighters that have gone out on post-traumatic stress and had great success with them. We found a couple other sources that are helping our firefighters get back to work. What I want to coach you on the workers' compensation is it's going to continue to drift up for the next year or two until we can get in front of that power curve. The liability should be good. The property should be good. We are all hands on deck right now with workers' comp issues. With that said, we don't want to overlook the most common injury with our firefighters, which is sprains and strains. About 52% of every dollar in workers' comps going out right now for sprains and strains. Hips, elbows, shoulders. Shoulders are the most expensive. And we need to do everything we can to make sure our firefighters are fit, that we're helping and supporting them, and we're providing every tool that we can to minimize those claims. I covered a lot of ground a little bit fast. I see some straight faces. Did I zip too quickly through kind of a little summary of where we're at the end of the year?
Anybody have any questions?
I love this. Okay, Marilyn, please.
Okay, so increases and decreases, to achieve this number, Did we have an increase in the amount of our deductibles or a decrease in any of our limits?
I love that. We have one limit that we don't like, which is on the cyber, and we're trying to increase that up. SDAO changed that. There were no changes in the deductibles. We did look at that. So we worked with Mark. We looked at a whole array of deductibles to find what we call the point of diminishing return. Next year, I think we're gonna probably recommend some increases, but this year they don't make sense. So we looked at raising our autos from 1,000 to 2,500 to 5,000. We looked at the same from property at 5,000 up quite a ways up. And the credits we get back against the policy don't pay for the claims that we're having. So they do not make sense. The best win we had was special districts did have our inland marine equipment, the things that go out on our apparatus per station, and that limited how much a total maximum loss could be. We did get all that bundled together into one number. So it's a much better position for us. But we didn't change any deductibles. Auto, I think, is 1,000, properties at 5,000, and inland marines at 5,000. And we're gonna continue to look.
Good. Fundamentally, then we can self-insure in those amounts, and so, it becomes a budget issue too.
Yes, at some point, you're gonna hit numbers. And I hinted that workers' comp is gonna go up for several years. Once we get our arms around and can find solutions for our post-traumatic stress claims, there'll be a point to where either the companies are gonna start dropping their rates fast, or it will make sense for us to self-insure. Right now, because it's what we call an expanding rate, it's a dangerous place to be.
Thank you.
I do want to give you one last piece of advice, knowledge, thought. NOAA says that this winter is going to be a very bad winter. You received a brochure from us this last month talking about what we think is going to hit. NOAA is saying that we have an El Nino wet year, but a cold year. Now, you've seen a little bit of it already. You know that Seattle's had two, what they call bomb cyclones. I was in Seattle when the first one hit, and about half the town lost power. The district, I think, is very well prepared for it, but as individuals, either at home or with your own homes, just double check and make sure the pump house has light and you're well secured for what we think is going to be a very, very ugly winter. Any other questions?
I don't think so. Thank you, Jeff.
If you have questions, let me know. Be safe. Happy holidays. Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Thanks for bringing us in this information. We're all good to see you.
It's always good to see you. Thank you.
Do I see you again later this week?
I'm sorry.
Do I see you again later this week or next week? Yeah, this week.
I'm in Seattle tomorrow. I'm in Medford on Thursday. Were you thinking of Clackamas Water?
Sunrise.
Oh, no, probably January.
Okay.
Unless you gotta have me, I'd be happy to come up.
That's all right.
Tell everybody at Sunrise High.
Have you been to the new building yet?
I have been by it. I have not been through it.
Where do you see it? It's kind of nice.
It's really good.
Thank you, Jeff. It's good seeing you again.
It's good to see you.
Okay, our next thing up is B1, which is request board approval of insurance renewal with SDIS. Chief Financial Officer Mark Whitaker.
Okay, good evening, board of directors. I don't have much to add to what Jeff just presented. The policy that was passed around to you is within the budget for the year. So I request approval of SDIS insurance coverage for calendar year 2025.
Do we have any questions or comments?
What is the number?
What is?
It'd be on the bottom of that page.
406.
406.
577, and that includes, takes into account the 10% discount.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, for 406,577.
And that is,
We budgeted at 420,000.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? No. Want to hear a motion for board approval of the insurance renewal with SDIS?
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Shelby, could you please call the roll?
Jake,
Yes.
Marilyn,
yes,
Chris,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. B1 is done. We're now B2, request board approval for LOSAP in-service emergency distribution for vested active volunteer coordinator Ryan Gregory.
Thank you, President Hawes and members of the board. We have two requests before you tonight, B2 and then B3 was added with Chief Brown's addition to the change of the agenda. So B2, we have a volunteer that is vested, that has experienced some unexpected medical expenses, which falls within the emergency distribution of funds, of their LOSAP funds that OFDDA allows within their policy. He's in good standing and based upon what he presented in his request, it meets with what I believe the policy intent is. I believe that Shelby included the policy for you guys to review as well. And we're seeking approval of a 6,000 distribution for this volunteer.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Any board member have any questions or comments?
Okay, my question, Ryan, is we can't really authorize that. As you said, the OFDDA board is the one that has to authorize it. So
What
what
they
are we doing?
What they request is that the partnering agency or sponsoring agency approve the request that it fits within their parameters, and then we pass it on with an approval from you reflected in the minutes, and then the OFDDA board will be the final say. Similar to how a subcommittee or committee would come back to you with a kind of a staff, essentially you're sending a staff report to OFDDA recommending approval.
No, certainly, Jay.
So the way it works is the LOSAP money belongs to the volunteers. And so the idea of it is obviously when they separate permanently that they get that money. But there are but each agency has a policy, should have a policy on how that money it gets to the volunteer, what good standing is that the person is a legitimate part of the organization and is in good standing and meets all of the policy that the organization's policy requirements for getting that distribution. And obviously it meets the IRS requirements for that. That's really all you're saying is that, yes, all of that you're valuing. Then it will go to the OFDDA. We get 2 or 3 of these a month, nothing unusual. And we never not approve them because if you fill out the form correctly, they always get it. But it does have to be approved by the agency first. So, but I mean, that's the way it works. As long as it meets the policy, there's no reason for us not to let them have it money.
Well, I don't object to any sort of distribution. I just don't think we're the ones that do it.
Yeah.
And that policy that was attached to this is the OFDDA policy, it's not our policy. So if we don't have a policy, what are we approving?
So
But,
we do
yeah.
have a LOSAP policy with OFDDA that explains the benefits that volunteers are able to take advantage of. That was not included in your packet. If you need additional information, it's just kind of a governing document on how volunteers earn points towards their LOSAP contributions, but then would also talk about distributions.
And in that document where we agreed to be participate in LOSAP, that all of that stuff is covered in that. So
Yes.
should be, I think it should be.
Sure.
My only thought on this, Ryan, is that when someone's undergoing an emergency like this individual is that I don't know that it needs to come before us. It seems like it could be handled at a lower level, at your level, it doesn't have to be the board. It seems like coming before a public meeting for something like this maybe is unnecessary if it could be handled easier, quicker, at a lower level. Just my thought.
I love your train of thought, and I kind of agree with that, but the way it's set up currently is it has to go through the sponsoring agency's elected officials
Okay.
and their board.
Maybe something to look at.
We could work on that in the future.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Do I hear a motion for board approval of a LOSAP in-service emergency distribution for vested active volunteer in the amount of $6,000?
So moved.
Second.
Shelby, could you please call the roll?
Jay,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes. Perfect, motion carries. Ryan, we're up for you again.
Yep, item B3, we have an additional volunteer that is requesting a $2,400 distribution for emergency medical expenses that were unanticipated. He is vested on our active roster, and it meets all the same criteria. We're just going through the process of getting the Clackamas Fire Board approval before we send it to the state agency.
Thank you. Any board member have any questions or comments on this one? Do I hear a motion for board approval of a LOSAP in-service emergency distribution for vested active volunteer in the amount of $2,400?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Shelby, would you call the roll, please?
Jay,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yeah.
Chris,
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ryan, thanks for bringing that taken care of for us. Business. We're now up to OB1. Does any board member have any committee or liaison reports to share? We didn't have any. Last meeting, we didn't have any. No. Okay. Storm Sandy. OB2. Board informational updates, comments. Any board member have any informational updates or comments to share? Very good. Informational only, division reports. Office of the Fire Chief Nick Brown, the Chief Brown will now share an update from the Office of the Fire Chief.
Awesome, thank you very much. Just a couple quick highlights. And then try not to steal anything Steve was about to say, which I normally do. Graduation of 15 recruits is set for this Thursday, the 19th, from the academy. And getting ready to start Academy 2501, which will be in March. We also have a promotional ceremony recognizing promotions to captain, lieutenant, apparatus operator, battalion chief, as well as swearing in of multiple new employees within the fire district. November, we started the Explorer program back up again, 3 returning, 12, I believe. Is that correct? 12 additional, 15 total, right?
18 total.
18 total, so 15 new Explorers. So that's really, really exciting to see that program get up and running again. It's bittersweet. It's exciting when we get to swear in a bunch of new employees, but it's also bittersweet in the fact that we have employees retire. And happy for them, but Captain Heitschmidt is retiring after 30 years. He retired on I think it was the 20th Thanksgiving. Yeah, so excited for him and his next venture, and in typical Ryan fashion, he's volunteering as a chaplain and so we'll see him again. He's coming back. We finished round 2 of mediation, which you guys heard earlier. And nothing more to report at this time for that. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Anyone have any questions or comments for the chief? No. Oh, next up is Office of Strategic Services, Assistant Chief Brian Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Just a few updates. So from Community Resilience Officer, a couple things he's been working on over this last month. We've had over 15 CFD members complete ICS 400, which is the advanced level of ICS, which individuals assigned to the incident management teams and those types of things will be at that level. And then the preemptive piece to that is 300, and he's going to conduct another session of that in late January. He's really been partnering with not just our wildland division, but also with Walton Valley to establish a series of incident management classes, which is fantastic. Recently, he's been working with Clackamas River water providers and our hazmat team and water rescue teams on our river. I can't remember what the actual term is. They have management zones within the river that they're working on, making sure that we're set for those. Should there be any releases, protect drinking water, make sure our members are safe during operations. As well as they gained an extension on a state homeland security grant, and they're going to use the funds to establish tactical scenarios for the sim table that will be used by our incident commanders for tactical training. So you may recall, it's been a couple of years, I think we had the sim table grant come through. And that established kind of a SAM table that uses simulations for evacuation, fire growth, if you manage to do some mitigation of vegetation, whether it's 10% of the vegetation or 100% of the vegetation, those types of things, and you can see how the fire behave. You could also look at how flood inundation zone would be. So looking at expanding that with some tactical scenarios, which would be great. And then on the facility side, moving along with 3 of our major projects, including training center and training warehouse. Those construction drawings went or will be submitted to the City of Happy Valley at the end of this week. And then at the end of the week, the Station 12 tenant improvements will be submitted to the county. Bidder packets will go out at the first of the year for all 3 projects. And we expect the projects to begin construction in March. Lastly, just a piece to raise a little bit of awareness. So Ground Emergency Medical Transport has gotten the eyes and ears of OFCA and the fire services at large, whether it's OFCA or OSAA, the Oregon State Ambulance Association. The OHA had submitted a plan amendment to the feds without their partners' awareness, which negatively impacts revenue across the state for most agencies. It's only been around for the last week and a half or so that we've known about this, so we're still digging into it. We don't know the financial impacts here within Clackamas, or at least I don't know if Mark does. But we're working closely with OHA and with our partners to get our arms wrapped around it and see what we can do to rectify the situation. So more to come, but lots of people have lots of eyes on it. And we'll try to correct that and see how we can get back to where we were, at least at a minimum, if not find some improvements along the way. That's all I have.
Anybody have any questions for Chief Stewart? No? Okay. Office of Business Services Assistant Chief Steve Peters.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Community services for November focused on Operation Sound, which I just completed. Great time by everybody, and you'll get your wrap-up report in January from the Chief Planner. Health and Wellness, they spent some time recruiting for a program specialist in the Wellness Division, and then narrowed that down, did some interviews, and made a job offer, so you'll get to meet that person once they're through all of their entry-level things. So that should be in January. And then PIO and social media supported all the events and the events that happened within the fire district throughout the month. And then human resources has a number of testing opportunities happening, and then also an entry-level firefighter paramedic process that ended Sunday night. So they'll be moving forward with that process and getting those folks in through interviews. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or no? Is the entry stuff to the Spark Hire again?
It will be, yes. Yeah. Part of it will.
We don't know how, do we know how many?
We do, I specifically do not. I didn't look today, so. But I'll let you know.
Pretty diverse area, as last time I checked, we had people from Salem Fire, we had people from DC, Utah, Gresham, so pretty awesome turnout as always, as far as where we're casting a blanket of recruitment. So pretty awesome.
All right, thank you. Oh, let's see, R1D Office of Financial Services, Chief Financial Officer Mark Whitaker.
Okay, good evening again. The finance report for this month is starting on page 13 of your packet. Not much new in terms of trends as far as expenses and everything go. Still, high in the same areas it was in previous months, but I think we're still on track to finish with a balanced budget. I guess the big news for November, of course, is that's when the property taxes come in. So we've collected the bulk of them in November. You can see it actually looks like we collected a lot more than last year. Part of that is just payment timing. A pretty large disbursement that happened in December last year happened in November this year. So I mean, obviously property taxes will be slightly larger than last year, but it's not as pronounced as it looks on the graphs and the finance report, just due to the timing. It'll probably even out in December. Page 15 of the packet, just want to highlight that it does show the revised budget amounts after we approved the health benefits fund last month, so those changes are reflected. And I'll try to include some updates on the health benefits fund in future finance reports as we flesh that out. And then lastly, on page 16 is the investment report. The LGIP interest rate has fallen. It was 5.3% over the summer. It's dropped down to 4.85%. And the expectation is that it will continue to fall if the Fed continues to lower interest rates. One investment that's not shown on there, because I made the trade, I think on December 2nd, is we did put some money into short-term treasuries, because we exceeded the cap for how much a single agency can hold in the LGIP, due to those property tax disbursements. And then it was also a hedge against the interest rates and how far they might fall between now and when the maturity is in June. But the interest rate on those is just around 4.35%. So the treasuries have already built in the idea that interest rates are going to fall over the coming months. And I would expect the LGIP the Fed meets again in December, and rates will probably fall again shortly after that meeting, and continue that way. So that's, I think, all I had for my report tonight, unless there's any questions.
So the bill is 6 months, the two bills are.
I've purchased, there's some that will mature in the end of May and then some in mid-June, to match up with our debt service payments.
Is that when our first payment is due?
Sorry,
Is that when our first payment?
our first pension payments, I mean, our first bond. Yeah, all of our GEO bond, our pension bond, and the loan, all the principal payments are due either at the end of May or middle of June.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. R1E, Office of Emergency Services Assistant Chief Dan Mueller.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. President, and members of the board. Just a quick report out here. Chief mentioned everything about training with our graduation and then the short gap and then swapping out our cadre and getting ready for the academy. So start after the first of the year. On the EMS side, nurse navigation, we've had 3 months of reporting on it, September, October, and November. So just some of the rough numbers, 160 calls had gone through nurse navigation over a 3-month period. 6 of those calls returned to the 911 system. 84 calls ended up being a non-emergent ambulance only. 20 were referrals for alternate destination, and then 50 of them were self-care. So the county sends a monthly report out, so they're just working through, keeping an eye on that and seeing how we can capture more calls through that system. But
How many were self-care?
we had 50 were self-care. And I can email you the monthly report from the county if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be, I'm actually doing some training with Dr. Jew next week, and I would like to share these numbers with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Then on the operational side, Rescue 3-1 is stocked and parked at Station 1 right now to go in service on January 1. So that's already ready to roll. And then Station 12, we're working through the facilities component. Chief Olson's a big part of that. And everything seems to be on schedule at this point, with just the refurbing of the building and getting everything rolling with that. So if anything changes, we'll definitely let the board know. I did have on the conversation of mutual aid with staffing Station 13. I did meet with Chief Stafford from Malala Fire during the last month, just to talk about the changes of what he is seeing with mutual aid. You can see in the board report that there's a little bit of a spike, and obviously we put a unit closer to their district. But great conversation. Part of his ambulance service area falls into Station 13's planning zone. So we do see one of their transport ambulances quite often. And then we had headed that direction a good number of times this year. I think Captain Corliss has done a great job of just being in touch with Chief Stafford and working through. But good relationship there, and I just want to keep an eye on it as we implement these new stations. So and then just the last highlight here from the wildland side, from the other Chief Olson to my left, is that recruitment still open for Crew 30. That's going to close, I believe, the first part of January. and looking to just refresh the crew and get that thing going by early spring. So, enter my report from ops.
You, any questions or comments for Chief?
How many people for crew 30 this year? How many bodies are gonna have this year?
20, we're gonna hire 23. And we'll probably have about 60% returning from last year.
Okay. We had the training I was doing today, we had a great talk with somebody who's from Portland Fire Bureau about crew 30 today, so. Very good. So,
Any other questions or comments? Professional firefighters, Clackamas County Local 1159, Vice President Andrew Gordon. Andrew, oh, there he is. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, everybody. Coming to you live from Station 7. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. I'd like to provide a quick update. So our Fill the Boot fundraiser at the Clackamas Promenade raised over $14,000. Combined with the funds raised during the summer campaign, we've surpassed our yearly goal of $15,000. These contributions will make a significant impact in supporting the Muscular Dystrophy Association. And we are grateful for the generosity of our community and the dedication of our members who made this possible. Kudos to Jeff Anderson and all his hard work organizing the event, as well as all the others that held the boot in the pouring rain. In January, there will be multiple educational opportunities for our members, specifically the Oregon State Firefighters Council Convention in Salem. This convention is designed to enhance professional development, expand skills, and strengthen the services we provide to our members and to the community. We encourage any interested members to take advantage. Let's see. So as Shop Steward Dunn and the fire chief mentioned, the union and the district have declared impasse in contract negotiations. After a year of discussions, an agreement has not been reached. As we move forward in the process, we trust the board recognizes the importance of ensuring the district remaining competitive in the regional fire service labor market and the role this plays in maintaining the high standards of service our community expects and deserves. So thank you very much for your attention to these updates, and we appreciate your ongoing support for the work we do both within the union and for the citizens of the fire district. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Andrew? No. Thanks for giving us an update, Andrew. Appreciate it. All the work those guys did. But I'll see you before. Have a Merry Christmas.
Awesome. You guys as well. Thank you so much.
Good night. Okay, R1G, Volunteer Association Report. Volunteer President Joe Jones.
Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen of the board. Dover Station, we went through and we staffed the Dover Station 27 of the 30 nights. We had a few nights that were unstaffed due to turnout inspections and cleaning. We had 12 calls for service in November. The rehabs have been staffed in 9 out of the 30 nights total, with 5 dispatches and 5 responses. And the water tender responses are the same with 5 dispatches and 5 responses. Chief covered the explorers and special events. We had the rehab support group go out with help with the burn alarm. So other than that, we went through and got our station patches and worked on getting the Volunteer Association first ever volunteer challenge win. So we're able to get some of those out to the members. That's everything I have tonight.
You have any questions or comments for Joe?
Yeah, those coins for sale.
I gotta double check how many Kenton ordered, so I got a small bag that I was like, oh, I don't know if that's enough. He goes, oh, I got more, so let me check.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll get back to you. Yes, sir.
I saw the photo of the 18 new Explorers
Yes.
In the packet. It's good to see that program being rebuilt again.
Yes.
This is the most that I remember since like 25 years ago when Brent was in there.
Yes, and I wanted to, Ryan did note in here, and I'm sorry, I didn't say
I
that.
think you were.
We have,
Yeah, I remember.
When you lived at Logan.
we have 12 male members and 6 female members, so we're excited to have a nice diverse group.
Then I was curious, are they from a variety of the high schools around, including Gladstone and Sandy, the new areas, or are they kind of condensed, used to like be Rex Putnam and back this?
I had not heard yet.
The bulk of them are in the fire district, and they stretch all the way from rhododendron and Welch's with 2 members to, we have 2 gentlemen who come over from Tualatin and Sherwood. They want to be part of a program like this, and they're committed to it. but the bulk of the members, I think. That's four, so 14 of them live in the fire district.
Okay, so they don't have to, which.
It's not a requirement at this point, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Anybody have any other questions or comments for Joe? Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Joe. We have a number of correspondence items back within the packet. Nice thank yous from the community. I saw the one about that vehicle in the semi. I saw those pictures. That's a.
Yeah.
Ouch. All right, informational items. I don't think we had anything past correspondence. The next board of directors meeting will be Monday, January 27th, 2025 at 5 p.m. The meeting will be hybrid with the public invited to attend either by remote video conference or in person at Station 5, 9339 Southeast Causey Avenue, Happy Valley, Oregon 97086. The regular board meeting is now recessed at 5:54 p.m. If you're attending in person, please make your way to the lobby while the executive session is conducted. The executive session is going to be called to order under ORS 192.6602A to discuss a personnel matter and ORS 192.662D labor contract negotiations. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all coming.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you, Merry Christmas.
Hey, Dan. Probably couldn't find parking.
Well, no.
Thanks for being here, guys.
So, yeah. All right. We adjourned the executive session at 6:54. We are now reconvening the regular meeting of the Clackamas Fire District Board of Directors. We have no further business to conduct, so at this time, at 6:55, we will adjourn the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of Clackamas Fire District for our December 16th, 2024 meeting. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, everyone have a great and safe season.
Chris,
Do we have to
Thank
say no decision was made at the executive?
I thought you,
No, is it okay?
we would just have to announce if there was.
Oh,
a
okay.
decision.
You do, you don't have to.
Yeah.
You did.
You just